Hello, hello, advanced English learners. Greg and MD here. And we have a fun discussion today about jobs and side hustles.
Love side hustles.
Yeah, me too. So in last week's lesson, or this lesson that we put out earlier this week, we talked about ways of asking what someone does for a job. So we wouldn't say, "What's your job?" because that's perceived as direct and rude, and even though it's grammatically correct, it's not pragmatically correct. So we don't actually speak this way.
What do you mean by grammatic versus pragmatic?
Great question. So grammatically, those words are in the syntax are right? What is your job, right? That's a perfectly correct English sentence.
Grammatically.
But pragmatically, like in the practical, use of our language use, how we actually use language, we don't ask that way.
So grammatic is just the sort of the syntax, the grammar of it.
Yeah.
And pragmatic is how we actually use it in day to day.
Yeah, language use.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Got
exactly. Great question, Greg. Thank you. So, we covered that. So definitely check that out for some ways of asking living, right? Now, the sort of hot term these days, you'll see it probably floating around the internet, is side hustle. And side hustle, what comes to mind when you hear side hustle, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, side hustle is something you have your main job, and then it's just basically some other way that you're maybe earning money for yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Or developing skills for yourself.
Right, like having a separate income stream or multiple streams of income. So if I'm talking to Greg and maybe I don't know him that well, right? I could say, so what do you do for a living? And then, so Greg, what do you do for a living?
Oh, I am an investment banker.
Okay. And how do you like it?
It's all right. It's honestly, it's a little boring.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about it.
Okay. Have you considered a side hustle, or do you have a side hustle?
I'm starting to work on this blog.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's about finance. And
very cool.
My hope is that I can get people reading the blog.
Right.
And maybe I can generate some income from that and not have to do my investment banking job anymore.
So interesting. I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah. So that would be my side hustle, right? My main job is the banking job. And on the side, I have this blog. A lot of people you might call it like a passion project.
Yes, exactly. And we talk about that in the video, right? This idea that you're working on something that you're so passionate about, but it doesn't it's not lucrative yet. And so you can't really just ditch your job or leave your job, right? Ditch your job. That's kind of like very casual language. We don't use that in a professional setting. But you would stop doing that 9 to 5 and then carry on to, be full-time side hustle. And then at that point, it's not a side hustle anymore.
Becomes your main hustle.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the word hustle.
Hustle. Okay. Hustle, hustler.
Yeah. So hustle in the most literal sense means to sort of hurry.
Yeah.
Right. To bustle along.
Yeah.
Hustle. So it's something that you're working on and with some urgency.
Yeah.
But because it's on the side, it's not primary, right? So it's like something you're urgently working on the side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's hyphenated, side
hustle.
Hustle. And a lot of people these days have it, right? And they might not even really consider it that until somebody points it out. So for example, right, Greg will ask me what I do for a living.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a teacher, and I love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
I have to tell you, I've started Instagramming, and I have a cooking Instagram. And I create healthy recipes for people, and it started to really take off.
Wow.
So now I have 1 million followers.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. So I think it's going to turn into my side hustle, believe it or not.
Your side hustle, it sounds like it's going to turn into your main hustle.
Yeah, but I didn't even realize that it's a side hustle.
Oh.
So I think that I finally have a side hustle.
That's cool.
And I think if it takes up my full day,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to retire from teaching and then, segue into
I'm gonna ditch the teaching job.
my my cooking
That's cool.
social.
But the beauty of cooking is you can teach with that too. You're just
That's
teaching
true.
something else.
Different type. Yep, because I was a history teacher. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, we're making these conversations up, but the point is to help you sort of see how this is used in an actual conversation, right? Naturally occurring conversation.
Yeah.
So you could ask somebody if they have a side hustle, but typically you'll sort of read the room, meaning you'll read their expressions on their face, and you'll just understand what they're hinting at, what they're sort of. You have to read between the lines, right? They don't explicitly tell you something, but
Yeah.
they set it up so that you ask them. So, for example, if I'm talking about a blog or a social media following or a YouTube channel or an Etsy shop, then they're inviting you to ask them, oh, what's your side hustle? Or do you
Yeah.
have a side hustle?
Yeah.
Right?
Or is that your side hustle? Right. Yeah. That's a great point. Something else to note
Yeah.
when it comes to side hustles
Yeah.
is people are sometimes not very open about talking about their side hustle.
Really good point. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes they're a little bit insecure if it's a very small business at
Yeah.
the time or a very small venture. So they're afraid that it'll look like they're not successful yet.
Right.
Like it's too small.
Right.
Or that maybe they're not qualified to do that, right?
That's
So
interesting.
people can be nervous about it. The other reason people might be nervous is if it's in a professional context.
Yeah.
They don't. If let's just say you're talking to a client. Let's say you work. Let's say I'm an investment banker again, right? And I'm working for, or I'm speaking to a client, right? And I'm convincing them why we're the bank that should represent them. And then, if I start talking about how I'm really into cooking and I have this cooking blog that I'm working on, they're going to start to wonder, is this guy, working on our deal here? Is he working for us, or is he actually spending most of his time on his cooking blog?
Right.
So they start to wonder, where's this guy's priorities?
Where does your allegiance lie?
Yeah.
Right.
So oftentimes people will bring up side hustles among friends.
Yeah.
Where they feel safe to talk about them without judgment, without the fear of punishment from their employer.
That's a really good point.
But in a professional context, most of the time people won't want to talk about their side hustle because they want to demonstrate that they're fully engaged in their full-time occupation.
That's a really good point. So really, if you were to ask this question, really waiting for the cues from the other person. Because again, if they mention an Etsy shop and you're not in a professional setting, then it's pretty much fair game to talk about that. The other reason why somebody might be reluctant and not want to talk about a side hustle, right? To be reluctant, is unwilling and not wanting to do something, is if they feel like competition. So if I'm doing a cooking blog
That's a good one.
and Greg has a cooking blog, I'm not maybe gonna want to talk about my cooking blog, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But the reverse is also true, right? Maybe I want to collaborate with Greg and his cooking blog. So in that case, I might say, hey, I'm working on this awesome side hustle. I think that you and I might have some ways of collaborating. I have a few ideas to float around if you're interested.
That would be really cool. I think our audiences have a lot of overlap, so that sounds great.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We can cook something.
Yeah.
So, right, really, really paying attention to, right, what are you receiving from the other person in terms of feedback? And, jobs and talking about jobs and how you make a living can sometimes be a little bit sensitive, right? Especially if somebody, if the climate, as you recall from last week, we talked about the climate, if the jobs if unemployment is high at the time, if there's a recession, if you know that somebody recently got laid off from
Or
the job.
fired, laid off, similar.
Yeah, so really being sensitive to that as well.
Yeah, yeah. But overall, most of the time people love to talk about their side hustles if they feel safe to do so because it's something they're passionate about, right? This is what they love to do, and they're doing it not because they have to, but because they want to, because they feel some need to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's also funny, right? When you listen to entrepreneurs talk and they've achieved great success, they talk about how it originally started as a side hustle.
Yep.
Or, you know, maybe a lot of YouTubers too, if you follow different YouTubers, a lot of them will tell you that it started as like a weekend fun thing, or, you know, while they were still in school and they were trying to make sense of the world and what they
Yeah.
wanted to do after college. So a lot of these things that turn into full-time
Endeavors.
endeavors and opportunities can start with a side hustle.
Yeah.
So maybe your challenge is to come up with a side hustle or a dream side hustle if you're still in school and thinking about what you might want to do at some point. And the beauty of a side hustle is that you can come up with it even if you have a job, right? A 9 to 5
Yeah.
job.
And if you have a side hustle, let us know. Tell us about it. Because those are always fun to hear about. And we like hearing about people talking about their passions.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us for this advanced English conversation practice and listening. Be sure to check out our other lessons and subscribe for more videos and live streams like this one.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great rest of the week.